Truma space base.
How could I miss that?
We didn't have a share yesterday, that's why.
Yes. Okay. All right. One might separate truma from unclean for clean, but so that means I have to go back to review what I didn't do. Okay. So
Well,
one
this
may
is
not,
it. This is what you're going to have to review.
one may not separate truma from unclean for clean, but if he did separate in error, his truma is truma. If intentionally he has affected nothing, so too if the son of a Levite who has tevel misa continues separating for it, if in error what he did is done, if intentionally he has affected nothing. Rabbi Yehuda says if he knew at the outset, then even if he did it in error, he has affected nothing. If one immersed himself on Shabbos, if in error, he may use
If
them.
you're not himself, we're talking about Kalim.
You're right. I left out a very important word.
Yes.
Sorry. If one immersed vessels on Shabbos, if in error, he may use them. If willfully, he may not use them. If one tithe or cooks on Shabbos in error, he may eat. If willfully, he may not eat.
Now pause here for a moment, because this is actually the opinion of Rabbi Meir. And lahalacha, we actually hold like, I think it's Rabbi Yehuda. It says that
Can't eat the food.
it says that actually no, the halacha is generally that if somebody did malacha on Shabbos, if it was shogeg, then you have to wait. Then other people have to wait after Shabbos Kadesh Yasu.
Right.
Or no, sorry, I think anyone has to wait Kadesh Yasu. And if it was mazid, then nobody's ever allowed to benefit from it.
Right. That's what I meant when I said that nobody could eat the food. You can't. You have to wait.
Right.
And then,
But if it was mazid. So right, and that was of course one of the huge heterim that I got from Rabbi Goldfein was about that subject, the whole thing like Rabbi Meir. Yeah, okay, carry on.
but I'm surprised that Rabbi Meir would even say that because it's a straight halakha from Har Sinai that you can't.
No, it was straight halacha. He's a Tana. He's allowed to disagree with Rabbi Yehuda.
Okay, all right. If willfully he may not eat. If one planted on Shabbos, if in error he may maintain. If willfully he must uproot. But in Shvias, whether in error or willfully, he must uproot. One may not separate truma from one kind for another, and if he did separate, his truma is not truma. All kinds of wheat count on one. All kinds of figs and dried figs and fig cakes count as one. And one may separate truma from one for the other. Where there is a priest, one may separate from the superior quality. Where there is no priest, one may separate from that which keeps. Rabbi Yehuda says one must always separate from the superior quality.
Okay,
You can't argue with the Torah. You can't argue with the.
Where does the Torah say explicitly that you can't benefit from something that was done on Shabbos?
I will know. I don't know.
Okay, so that doesn't. It doesn't. It's Torah Shebal Peh, and Rabbi Meir's opinion on this is that in any case, I don't think that's an Isser min Torah to benefit from something from a Maaseh Shabbos. I think that itself is a Durabanan.
Like
in which case, Rabbi Meir is one of the Rabbanim who has a say in this.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so we just learned at the end of Mishnah Daled that if you're in a place where you have a friendly local kohen, then you should give him higher quality produce rather than that which will keep better. So you can have two aspects about food that we're going to consider about what's preferable to give to a kohen. Should you give him higher quality even though it'll go off faster, or should you give him a lower quality because it'll last longer for him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is the machlokes Tanaim over here. Is that the Tanakama says give him. It depends. If he lives nearby, if you have a kohen and it's easy to get the truma to him, then give him the higher quality stuff. But if you're going to have to wait until market day till you go into the city and find a kohen to give the truma, then again give him stuff that's going to preserve. Where Rabbi Yehuda says it doesn't matter. Always give him the higher quality. Okay, and Mishnah Hay is an application of that. Tormin batzal katan shalem. Rather take a small a small whole onion for a kohen, v'lo chatzi batzal gadol, and not rather than a half of a big one. Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo ki ela chatzi batzal gadol, and Rabbi Yehuda says no. The higher quality, it's nicer. The bigger onions are nicer, so give him half of one of those rather. V'chein haya Rabbi Yehuda Omer tormin betzalim ibnei hamadina ala kufrim, aval lo min hakufrim al bnei hamadina. So you should give betzalim from there are two different types of onions. There's bnei Medina, which are higher quality, rather than the kufrim, which last longer, but not in the other direction. And because the onions of the type called bnei Medina are higher quality, and the political class, I guess, like those ones. Anashim chashuvim. Okay. It's interesting to see sort of English words creeping into the Mishnah over there. Like we see the politician, the political class, yeah, and monopole. The manpole is the guy who's got a monopoly. So you occasionally see these. It's probably the Greek influence there. Okay, Mishnah Vav. The Tormin Zeis Shemen al Zeis Kevesh. If you have just olives, but there are olives that some of the olives are the high quality olives are the ones that are going to be used for pressing for oil, and the other ones you're going to just pickle for straight eating. Okay, so what the Mishnah says that you can take the oil olives, you can use as truma for the pickling olives, but not the other direction. And uncooked wine it can be taken as truma for cooked wine, because the mevushal wine is considered inferior quality to uncooked wine. Your general rule, this is actually not a rule that refers to the beginning of the Mishnah, but this is another general rule that we have over here, is that what can be taken as truma to exempt another type, anything that's not considered kilayim. Okay, if it's not considered kilayim, if it is kilayim, then you cannot take truma from one on the other because they're two different species. Right? Afilu min hayafa alara, even if it's higher quality or lower quality. But if it's not kilayim, torem min hayafa alara. So here we have a very intimate link between kilayim and trumas. That if they're not kilayim, then you're allowed to take truma from one on the other. But you still can't take from the inferior quality on the superior quality. That would not be the right thing. But if he did go ahead and take truma from the inferior on the superior, truma so truma, it's nonetheless done. It's just that lechatchila you should be giving the higher quality to the kohen. But it's still a valid truma if he did it the other direction. Except we mentioned in the beginning of kilayim. Remember there was a hachitim v'azunim are not kilayim with each other. So technically you should say that you could take zunim as truma for chitin, except that people don't eat zunim. It's not considered ochel enough, and therefore it would not be valid even to give that to the kohen as truma. We saw this in kilayim as well. Kishas and these are two different species of cucumber. The Rabbi Yehuda Omer shnei minim, but he says that they're two different minim. And does he actually hold it that kilayim? Yes, Rabbi Yehuda also says that they are kilayim. Is that? I'm just going to roll back quickly to kilayim to see if Rabbi Yehuda said exactly the same thing in kilayim. I don't remember him doing it. Rabbi Yehuda Omer kilayim. Yeah, Mishna base. Kilayim aleph base. It says there. Rabbi Yehuda says the kilayim. Yeah. Okay. fine. So I didn't remember so well, but now I'm going to remember this. All right. Perek Gimel, Mishna Aleph, Hatorim Kishos v'nim Tesmara. Now somebody takes cuts or takes a melon, or and says, okay, this is truma, and then he takes it to give to the kohen, and he discovers that it is bitter, and it's gone off. It's just inedible. Or similarly, avatiach. Sorry, kishas is that's like zucchini, right. and avatiach v'nimtza saruach. Or if similarly a watermelon and it's found to be rotten. Okay, so now he's got a problem. If he knows for sure that it was rotten at the time that he took the truma, then okay, then it's clearly invalid because it's just not edible. However, there's a doubt now in his mind as to whether it rotted after he took the truma, or if it was rotten from before. If it is rotten after he took the truma, then it's not. Then it was a valid truma. It just went off. Okay, so what's his eitzah? Truma, treat it as truma, but on the possibility that it wasn't a valid truma, that it was rotten at the time that he took it, he must go back and take truma a second time. So he's got a safek truma. Now what does he do? He's got two.
Same item. Takes truma again from the same.
He takes truma again from the same, because it's possible that the first truma was invalid.
Even though it's rotten and spoiled and.
So the first one is rotten and spoiled. Okay. Now he goes back and he takes something a little more carefully and says, okay.
That's what I was asking, if it was the same item itself. That's what I meant.
No. He certainly can't use the same truma. Of course, it's off. Okay. So now he's got two lots of truma over here, which he now wants to take to the kohen, and the kohen says, I don't want to take that rotten one. Give me the nice one. And the Yisrael can say, hold on a second. You have to prove to me that the rotten one wasn't the valid truma, And the kohen says, I can't prove that. And says, okay, so pay me for the larger of them. He says, okay. So the kohen's got no choice, because he can't really prove. It's just that the Israel has got to sort out his own produce, otherwise he's eating tevel. So I've sorted out now. I've sorted this out. I'm happy to give this to you, but you must pay me for at least one portion, because one portion over here is not truma. Right. So he can do that. And the kohen's got to prove that the first one was rotten. Otherwise he's going to have to pay for it. Okay, and he'll pay a depressed price. He'll pay the price of meduma, because the Israel can't eat it either, because it's safek truma. Anyway, hatorim chavis shel yayin v'nimtzeis shel chometz. So the same kind of din applies over here. If he takes truma from a barrel of wine, and then he looks at what he took out and it turns out to be vinegar. Im yadua shehaysa shel chometz ad shelo trama eina truma. If he can see that it was vinegar before he took truma, okay, as eina truma, then this was an invalid truma. It doesn't count. Im misha terama hechmitza. However, if it went sour after he took truma, harezo truma, it's just truma, and it's spoiled for the kohen. Beim safek truma v'yachzor v'yitroma, which is basically the same case as we had in the Reisha, it's safek truma. In each case, he's got to take two lots of truma. Harishona eina medama bifnei atzma, ve'en chayvin al chomesh v'chein hashniya. So because each case, so you've got two jugs of wine that he's taken out, one of which is vinegar and one of which is wine. And because each case is safek truma, if each one happened to fall back into chulin, they're not going to cause the chulin to become meduma. Because each case is a safek truma, you can fall back on the deraisa din of rov, that truma is bafel barov. Okay, but if both of them had to fall into the same truma, into the same chulin, then you say, okay, well, for sure you've got some truma in here, and therefore it's going to become meduma. And similarly, if a Yisrael accidentally consumes one of these things, he does have to pay back the value, but he doesn't have to give back the chomesh, because it's a safek truma.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Fine. Shvius. Test.
If test. If one inherited seventh year produce or received it as a gift, Reb Eliezer says it should be given to whomever will eat it. But the sages say the sinner should not benefit, rather it should be sold to those who eat it and the money be distributed to anyone. If one eats from seventh year dough before challah has been separated from it, he is guilty of death. The seventh year cancels a loan, whether it is secured by bond or not. Credit granted by a shop is not canceled, but if it was converted into a loan, it's canceled. Rabbi Yehuda says the first is canceled. The wages of a hired worker are not canceled, but if he converted them into a loan, it is canceled. Rabbi Yossi says any work that must cease with the seventh year is canceled, but whatever need not cease with the seventh year is not canceled. If one slaughtered a cow and distributed it on New Year's Day, if the month was intercalculated, it is canceled. But if not, it's not canceled, and the violator, the seducer, the slanderer, and any act executed by the court are not canceled. If one loans against a pledge or hands his bill to the court, they are not canceled. Okay. Let me just see.
Kilayim.
Yes, we should be doing.
Chesvav.
Right. Okay. Let me just put this marker in here. Okay. Okay. The wild ox is a kind of domesticated animal, but Rabbi Yossi says it is a kind of undomesticated animal. The dog is a kind of undomesticated animal, and Reb Meir says it is a kind of domesticated animal. The pig is a kind of domesticated animal. The wild donkey is a kind of undomesticated animal. The elephant and the ape are kinds of undomesticated animal, and a man may draw, plow, or drive with any of them.
That we said that you can't plow with the horse and a donkey together.
Right.
Okay, but if you've got a donkey that's pulling a plow, a person can come and plow along. A person's not considered an animal at all in this respect.
Okay. Aleph. The Kalayim prohibition applies only to wool and linen. Only wool and linen are rendered unclean by Nagayim. The priests wear for service in the temple only wool and linen. If camel's wool and sheep's wool have been hackled together, if the greater part is camel's wool, it's permitted. But if the greater part is sheep's wool, it is forbidden. If it is half and half, it is forbidden, and the same applies to linen, hemp, hackled together. Silk and based silk do not come under the prohibition of Kalayim, but are forbidden on account of appearances. Mattresses and pillows do not come under the prohibition of Kalayim, provided one's flesh does not touch them. There is no exemption for casual wear of Kalayim, and Kalayim may not be worn even on top of 10, not even to evade customs dues.
And evading customs dues, of course, is only referring to where you have a bandit who's taking the customs. He doesn't. It's not with the permission of the king.
Okay. Let's see. Okay.
Okten
Yudayim.
Aleph Daled.
Yudayim. Okay. I'll turn the page the wrong way. Do not contract tuma and do not convey tuma and do not combine the roots of kohlrabi stems and the regeneration roots of spinach, beet, and turnip. Those plants that are normally clipped but were uprooted, Rabbi Yossi rules all of them tameh, but rules the roots of kohlrabi stems and of turnips tahor. All handles of food that were one crushed on the threshing floor are tahor. Rabbi Yossi rules
Just
the
hold on a
crushed
second. Sorry, carry on.
Hey, all handles of foods that one crushed on the threshing floor are tahor, and Rabbi Yossi rules the crushed stalks tameh. A snippet of a cluster of grapes that one bared, is tahor, but if one left a single berry on it, it is tameh. A spigolet of dates, I don't know what a spigolet is, but a spigolet of dates that one bared is tahor, but if one left on a single date, it is tameh. And so too with legumes. A pod that one bared is tahor, and if one left on a single berry, it is tameh. The Elazar and Nazariah rules the pot of tafava beans tahor and rules the pot of other beans tameh, because a person desires the feel of them. The peduncle of figs, dried figs, chickpeas, and carobs, these contract tuma and convey tuma and combine. But Yossi says even the peduncle of a gourd, the peduncle of pears, crystamillin, apples, quinces, and sorbs, the peduncle of a gourd, a handbreadth, the peduncle of an eggplant, a handbreadth. Reb Eliezer, the son of Zadik, says two handbreadths. These contract tuma and convey tuma, but do not combine. And all other peduncles do not combine tuma and do not convey tuma.
Okay. Olos, base vav.
A spine and a skull from two corpses, a quarter log of blood from two corpses, a quarter cob of bones from two corpses, a limb severed from two corpses, and a limb severed from two living persons. Rabbi Akiva declares all of these cases tamei, but the sages declare them tahor from tumas ohel. The bone the size of a barley corn that was divided into two, Rabbi Akiva rules it tamei, but Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri rules it tahor. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said they did not say bones the size of a barley corn, rather they said the bone the size of a barley corn.
A bone, not bones.
You're right, I did it again. A bone, one bone. A quarter cup of bones that were crushed on that no bone is the size of a barley corn. Reb Shimon rules it tahor, and the Chachamim rule it tahor, tamei. A limb severed from a living person that was divided into two is tahor. Reb Yossi declares it tamei, but he agrees that if the limb was removed from the living person half at a time, it is tahor. Any of the items that convey tumah through ohel that were divided and brought into a house, Reb Dosa ben Harkinis rules him tahor, while the sages rule him tamei. How so? If someone touches two pieces of an animal carcass, each one half the size of an olive, or carries them, or in the case of a corpse, if someone touches a piece of flesh half the size of an olive, and simultaneously forms a roof over another piece half the size of an olive, or he touches a piece of flesh half the size of an olive, and another piece half the size of an olive forms a roof over him, or he forms a roof over two pieces, each half the size of an olive, or the person forms a roof over a piece of corpse half the size of an olive, and a piece half the size of an olive forms a roof over him, Reb Dosi ben Harkinis rules him tahor, while the Chachamim rule him tamei. If someone touches a piece of corpse flesh half the size of an olive, and simultaneously forms a roof over him, and a different piece of corpse flesh half the size of an olive, or one forms a roof over a piece of corpse flesh half the size of an olive, and simultaneously something forms a roof over him, and a different piece of corpse flesh half the size of an olive, he remains tahor. Reb Meir said, even in this case, Reb Dosa Harkinis rules him tahor, and the Chachamim rule him tamei. Everyone becomes tamei in the above situations, except where tumah contracted through touch coincides with tumah contracted through carrying, and the cases in which tumah contracted through carrying coincides with the tumah contracted through ohel. This is the rule. Anything in the same category is tamei, whereas those in different categories remain tahor.
Adios. Base aleph.
Okay, here we go. Reb Kanina, administrator of the Kohanim, testified concerning four matters. In all the days of the Kohanim, never did they refrain from burning sacrificial meat that had been contaminated by a derived tumah together with the sacrificial meat that had been contaminated by an avatuma, although by doing so they added tumah to its tumah. Rabbi Akiva added, in all the days of the Kohanim, never did they refrain from lighting oil that had been disqualified through a tevel yom in a lamp that had been contaminated by one who was tamei from a corpse, although by doing so they increased its tumah. Reb Kanina, administrator of the Kohanim, said, in all my days I never saw a hide being taken out to the place of burning. Rabbi Akiva said, from Rabbi Kanina's words, we learn that if one skins a bakor and it is then found to be a treifa, then the Kohanim may benefit from its hide. But the Chachamim say we have not seen, it is not a proof. Rather, it goes out to the place of burning.
Absence of proof is not proof of absence.
Absolutely right. He also testified about a small village that was adjacent to Yerushalayim, and there was in this village a certain sage who he would lend money for all the villages, and he would write in his own hand and other signs. When the incident came before the Kama, they permitted it. From this testimony, you may learn incidentally that a woman may write her own get, and a man may write his own receipt, because the validation of the document is effected only by its signers. And if Reb Kanina testified concerning a needle that was discovered in the flesh, that the knife and the hands are tahor, but the flesh is tameh, and if the needle was discovered in excrement, everything is tahor.
Right. This is a needle that is tame mace, and if it's found in the flesh, then the flesh is tame. But if it's found in the excrement, then you don't have to presume that it touched the meat after the animal died.
Megillah.
Okay. Right, and Megillah Aleph Yud Aleph.
There is no difference between the laws pertaining to the tabernacle at Shiloh and those pertaining to the temple in Yerushalayim, except that in Shiloh one was permitted to eat kodashim kalim and second tithes anywhere within sight of Shiloh. But in Yerushalayim one was only permitted to do so within the walls. Both here and there, koshei kodashim were permitted to be eaten only within the curtains. After the sanctity of Shiloh, bamos were permitted, but after the sanctification of Yerushalayim, bamos were not permitted. If someone read the Megillah out of sequence, he has not fulfilled this obligation. But if he read it by heart, or if he read it in Targum or in any other language, he has not fulfilled his obligation. However, one may read it for those who speak a foreign language in a foreign language. And one who speaks a foreign language and heard it read in Hebrew that was written in Assyrian, except that Assyrian script, he has fulfilled his obligation. If one read it discontinuously or while half asleep, he has fulfilled his obligation. If one was writing it, expounding upon it, or correcting it, provided he had intent, he fulfilled his obligation. If not, he did not fulfill his obligation. If it was written with orpiment, vermilion, gum, and ferrous sulfate, or on paper, or on unfinished parchment, he did not fulfill his obligation, unless it is written in Assyrian script on parchment and with ink.
Okay. All right, that's done.
Okay. Have a good Shabbos. Enjoy.
Have a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you. Thank you. I will see you, Mr. Shem, on Sunday.
Bezrat Hashem. Inshallah.
Bye.